Good morning. Thank you for joining the January 28th, 2020 VOLTA call. Just a reminder to everyone that we do record these meetings. They are public, and we post them to YouTube after the meeting concludes. So please be mindful of that during discussion and any presentations that we have today. With that, we'll get started with today's agenda. And just a reminder to folks, since we switched to Zoom recently, that the default is that you are muted. So if you need to speak, you may need to check to make sure you have unmuted yourself on the line. First topic on the agenda, we have just a couple non-brigade related JIRAs to review of the JIRAs that have been open since our last meeting. And then before I started the call, I did not see any all discussed flags on tickets, but we'll take a look for that. And then we have some discussion that started on VOLTA Discuss. We thought it'd be a good time to bring that thread over here for discussion with the group on today's call, and that's related to device disable and delete. So there is a link to that thread. Hopefully you saw that in the meeting agenda. Are there other topics that people would like to have added to the agenda today?
There was Julie, there was another discussion that is going on, I think since yesterday. I saw that this morning. It's about the port status. Yeah, this one.
Am I on the right one? Yes, okay. We can queue that one up today as well.
Yeah,
I saw,
thanks.
I was looking at that earlier. Okay. And let me add it here, just so I don't forget that we have another topic. Thanks, Ken. Okay, then any other topics for discussion today? And let me go to the JIRAs. One I wanted to check on is 2505. This was a new one. And I had a question, Amit, for you. I think I see you on the bridge. I wasn't sure if this was actually part of another ticket, 2463. So this is support for enable and disable of individual NNI ports on OLT, 2463. And I thought it might be covering the NNI side of this ticket. So maybe should it be a subtask, or is there something unique about that one that I might have missed?
Yeah, actually, sorry for the confusion. So as part of 2463, on the VOLTA core APIs, we plan to have support for enable disable of WAN or NNI or any kind of ports. But on the OpenOLT adapter, we will not support NNI port disabling at the moment. And only that part, for that part, we have created a separate JIRA.
Got it. Thank you. I figured there was a reason. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay, then let me go back to refresh this again, see if anything new has come in. 17, I think, is the last one. There are a couple new ones that may not have brigades here, so we need to figure out where to put those. 2516 and 2517, these are related to changes to support the DT workflow. 2516 is for ONOS, and this is related to currently pushing VLAN 4096, and in the DT workflow, it should be any in the selector. And then a related ticket, 2517, and these are similar changes, but on VOLTA Core and OpenOLT adapter. Any questions on those items for today? Okay, those were the only ones that I saw that did not appear to be part of the brigade, and so then I think we can move on to
Julie, sorry.
Yes.
I did have a question for Amit on the NNI ports enabling, disabling. Right now, the entire stack assumes that there is only one NNI port. So as part of the story, are more NNI ports going to become visible to ONOS?
No, sir. So okay, so why we kept this NNI port separate is because we feel that there is more to it, right? Because once the NNI port gets disabled, and as you rightly said, there's support for only a single NNI port, what should be the behavior of the ONOS app also, right? Because the path is broken. So should the flows be removed, or should all the logical ports be brought down, the unilogical ports? So I think we also need to define what the behavior of the system should be in that case. But to answer your question, there is no plan of having multiple NNI ports for the moment.
Okay. So even for the single NNI port, you're saying that there is a need to describe the behavior?
Yes, as in it's not documented anywhere, right, as to how the system should behave if the only NNI port that is there is gone. When a uniport goes down, I think we know, okay, what should happen. But for an NNI port, it's not documented. And also
well, it may not have been documented, but I do believe that at least Matt and I have talked about it once, I believe. And I think our conclusion was to do nothing. Matt, are you there? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I'm trying to recall when it was, but it may come down to do as little as possible to fulfill the intended request. So in the case of the NNI, and assuming you're not using the NNI for end-band management, then it really comes down to shut down in the port state, in ONOS, the opera state, just that NNI port, and any flows that may be associated with it would be removed. But all the other ports would still be offer status active. They would still be admin status active. It just so happens they can't pass traffic. You know, just like if an ag switch went down, right? The ag switch goes down. It's not like VOLTHA is going to know about it, but the net result is the same. You can't pass traffic.
But when you say that any flows that reference the NNI port at ONOS should be removed, then in that case, ultimately all the flows, all the data passing HSIA flows refer to that port, right?
Well, so good question. I don't know. So the ones I had to mind were the ones that were specific around trapping and intercepting off of the NNI. For the data plane flows for the unis for the NNI, I'm not sure what it will do. Would it just remove them as part of just due course and OpenFlow, or would the OLT app go out of its way to remove them like it's done in the case of the uniports? So that one is really just I'm not sure what the behavior is today for that those particular flows.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I think we weren't even removing the trap flows that matched on the NNI port.
Yeah, maybe not.
I mean, there really wasn't any reason to do so. I mean, it's not hurting anything or anyone. Leave it there, and then when NNI comes back up, well, it's the flows are still
as of today, the ONOS app I think does nothing. If it checks if it is not a uniport, it does nothing. So if we all agree that okay, that's how the behavior should be, then yes, why not?
Yeah, I mean, unless there is a compelling reason to do otherwise, I think it's fine the way it is right now, probably.
Especially if there's going to be churn with the data plane uniports or the data plane flows that are ultimately involving uniports, even though they're not referenced directly. We certainly don't want to cause a whole lot of churn with that if we don't have to.
Okay, yeah, and the other aspect that we also need to look into, as Matt alluded to it, was that in-band management through the NNI. So if in-band management is happening, then we need to see where we figure out that in-band management is happening, because in that case, we shouldn't be allowing disabling of the NNI port.
Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be consideration for that. Otherwise, you'll cut your legs off.
Yeah.
So today, can you actually disable the NNI port?
No, as of today, there's no support for that.
Yeah, there's no support for disabling anything per port, anything in VOLTHA today. There's some changes coming in that will support that for all ports. So yeah, now the question of can we and should we, and how they behaved is really relevant. But before, there was really no way.
I thought if you disabled the OLT, it would admin down or take down the NNI ports.
I think that got moved to the PON ports, or actually, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's correct. So earlier the implementation was that disable OLT would mean that disable of the NNI port, but because support for in-band management had to be brought in, that could not be a solution. So now the disable of the OLT, at least for the open OLT adapter, is disabling of all the PON ports.
Right. So then there is no explicit disable of the NNI port today.
Yes, it is not there as of today.
And yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to leave it like that.
Yeah, so that's precisely, we created a separate JIRA to discuss on this and maybe visit this at a later point of time. The submission that we are making right now, which is in the review right now, that explicitly does not allow disabling of the NNI port.
I see. So if anyone wants to walk down the path of the VOLTCTL to try and disable the NNI port, it just won't let it do it.
Yeah, it will give an error.
Okay, that's fine for now.
That basically mirrors somewhat what's done on the ONU. When you disable the ONU device, it doesn't actually cut off the OCI communication channel. It just shuts down the UNI ports. So in this case, the disabling of the OLT, while not altering the NNI, would then just shut down the PON ports, its southbound ports. So given that port management is now coming along for all ports, we have to just consider what it means if somebody tries to disable an individual port, where before it was never even an option.
Right. I think it's good to document all this somewhere. I mean, later in this call, we're also going to talk about, disable, delete, and whether disable should precede delete. So all of that, I'd started documenting it in a place that is in the design docs. And I could take an action item to continue documenting it in that place. I'll open it up for review once I have written that down, or maybe assign some of these to folks documented over there. But I think we should document it so that everyone can have one place to look at it. Agreed?
Yeah, that would be good, sir.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Saurabh. Any other discussion on this item today? Okay, going back, let me just check, see if any flags were raised on all discussed items. And nothing matches, so we still have that clear. So I think that will bring us on to the next topic, which Saurabh just mentioned, which is looking at device disable and delete, ordering relations and so forth. So there is a VOLTHA Discuss thread open on that. I do have that up on my screen. If we want to go into any of those messages, we can do that. Or if anyone has any material that they'd like to present, let me know that as well. And with that, I think we can open it up for discussion. And right now, Amit, I have yours up there on the screen, and then the reply from David I did have, I think. If I need to go further back, let me know.
So the key question to Amit's point that he made in the thread was, can I delete without disabling first? And if so, do we need any pre-delete check? And his premise, and I agree with it, is no, we don't. If you delete, it deletes. Don't delete anything you don't want deleted. So if we can answer that question first, kind of his point first, or agree on his point, then the rest of this might fall into place.
So I'd like to try and share my screen to show you what I was talking about when I was saying that we are started to document some of these things. And that might be a good place to start for this discussion. So thanks, Julie. Let me share my screen. I think you can, hopefully you can see my screen right now. And
yes.
then under design documents, so state changes and actions, this was the screen, this was, what this is showing is, so sort of the objects that we are creating inside VOLTHA and their state. And as you change the state via these things written in red, which was the admin disable enable of things, what is the physical manifestation in the pawn for doing those things, right? Whether it's stuff in the ONU or stuff regarding the OLT. Okay, so let me walk through this to see if this makes sense. So you have an ONU discovery indication leading to an implicit creation of the ONU, right? You do your OMCI MIB upload, download stuff, and then it automatically moves over to enabled state if all goes well, right? Now at that point, it's operational. Physically, it can pass traffic, whatever that traffic may be. And of course, you can admin disable and enable ONUs, which sends the OMCI messages, as Matt was pointing out, right now to take out the uniports, keep the OMCI channel up, right? It's not operational anymore.
But it's right. At any given time, when I issue a command, whether that's enable, disable, or delete, the actual hardware may not be present. And how does that affect this diagram?
So pre-provisioning, is that what you mean? I create the ONU without it being...
No, I'm not talking pre-provisioning. Okay. I'm talking the device was there, provisioned, enabled, running, passing traffic. I pulled it out. It's no longer in my network. I physically removed it. Issuing an enable or disable command. What does that mean now when the device is not there?
If it's as it is today, an enable or disable will attempt to reach out to either OMCI or BAL to perform the enable or disable, and it will time out and fail. That is as it is today.
Right.
The case of, I guess the question really comes down to, is that behavior a problem if we want to then follow up with a delete? Because in some cases, right, if the device is gone and you try to call disable, if it's just a single ONU and you attempt to call disable, you wait your OMCI timeout, however many seconds that is, it's just not going to work, right? It'll just come back and say, I tried and it didn't. But if you're trying to, disable and then delete an entire OLT, and it's going to kick off a whole lot of messaging to a device that, in this case, if the OLT is physically off the network, none of that's going to succeed, generate a lot of messages that will time out and fail.
Yeah. But don't we know whether the ONU is present or not? I mean,
in the case of enable or disable, we do, because if the ONU is gone, we will have received an indication from the OLT that the ONU was removed. So when the time comes to call disable or enable, we do know if the ONU is there. We do know if that channel is been cut off, the phone has been cut off.
Okay.
And it may be we can just handle that better. We could, and there may be actually be a check in there already. The trying to disable a up or down ONU, that's still kind of an edge. Well, I don't say an edge case. It's still kind of a not very well tested path. So there may need to be some work there, at least on the ONU side.
Right. So we have this auto discover mode, right? So bottom up, we come along, we create the ONU because we discovered it's physically present. Now, isn't there another path where we can create the ONU, a pre-provision operation? So it may not be present, but I create the record.
I don't believe so. I don't think
so. So there's no pre-provision of. It's all. I can only pre-provision a subscriber. Is that because with the subscriber I can provide a serial number or a registration ID, right?
that is correct.
So that's I guess an equivalent creation of an ONU, I guess, right? Because I'm saying the subscriber has to have this physical ONU with the serial number or registration ID or whatever the registration
does not, yeah, but it does not lead to a creation of an object, right? A subscriber provisioning done in ONOS that references a serial number of an ONU that does not exist yet, that does not lead to a creation of an object in VOLTA.
Right. So the ONU has to
bottom-up discovery.
Yeah. So the ONU has to show up, and then there's a match made on the registration, whatever the registration method is with that subscriber record.
Correct.
Or it could go off platform somewhere else, and then the subscriber could get created because of that presence, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to us, an ONU deletion, right now there was a necessary step, I believe, to disable the ONU and then delete it. We did conclude that even if the disable failed, the delete should succeed in the sense that it should wipe out the object in VOLTA, right? And its physical manifestation may really be that, you've removed the ONU from the pawn. It's not a common occurrence, but it may not be reachable or whatever, or something may have gone wrong and you really just want to wipe out the state in VOLTA and have the OLT rediscover and recreate the ONU object, right?
Right. He's just saying, okay, forget about this ONU, right? I'm saying delete it. I'm just going to forget about it. If it's still there, it just goes through the whole discovery process again.
Correct.
And it just recreates it, right? The delete's kind of like
so in that case, does the enable mean anything? Do we just go delete ONU? We don't need a disable ONU. Can we just do a delete ONU?
Well, I may need to disable it because I want it to turn off service, right?
Well, no, we need a disable command, but is that orthogonal separate from the delete command? So for a given ONU, I can disable it or enable it, which does that thing, or I can say ONU delete and it just removes it from, essentially cleans up the data.
Exactly. So I think that's the point that Amit is trying to make.
Yes.
It should not be a necessary step to disable. I mean, you could go right from enabled state and draw state transition to when you delete it.
And then the parallel to that would be doing the same thing at the OLT level.
Same thing at the OLT level, right? So, and in fact, even at the OLT level, we had concluded, right? Should be able to disable it, delete it, even if the disable doesn't work. For example, you have lost communication to the OLT, and all you really want to do is really wipe out all state in VOLTA, and then go right back over here to create it once again, right? So I think that's perfectly fine, to be honest.
I'd say some of this has an operational implication as well. Just in operating the system for longer durations, there may be times, let's say for whatever reason, maybe there's a bug or whatever situation, and it would be nice to be able to remove ONUs and remove OLTs from VOLTA and re-add them, recreate them without having the only option of cleaning up being completely down and up VOLTA again, right? If there was some way through OLT delete and ONU delete to kind of clean up after yourself, no matter what state you were in before, then it saves the whole arguably embarrassing step of, well, gee, I'm in a really bad state. Now I have to, nuke everything and start over. And that scenario has played out a number of times just in, development testing. But again, bugs will always exist. And there may be a situation that might just be, the workaround is to delete the OLT or to delete the ONU and let rediscovery go through its process again.
A question that I have with this approach, I'm okay with that. I'm just looking at the situation where we get failures, because in a sense, suppose we get a delete coming in the core. So the core will look at the device, can be an OLT or an ONU. It'll go and delete that device. If it's an OLT, it will remove anything that has to do with the logical device. It's gone. If it's an ONU, the logical port is gone. And then it will send that request to the adapter. Now, what happens if the adapter fails to delete that device in its memory? Should the core care, or just it's gone in the core? That's it. We don't care about any response from the adapter for that.
What would happen if the adapter tries to resync in that situation and the item isn't in the core?
The core will just say it doesn't exist.
So will the adapter at that point delete it then? So even if the initial delete message doesn't,
I mean, it may be a reconcile step that says, I mean, even today during reconciliation, if the adapter, say, dies, when the adapter is asked to reconcile, it is told, here are the 5 devices you need to reconcile for. Mm-hmm. So if for whatever reason the core deleted the 6th, then the 6th device that may have been around when the adapter used to be there, it would just never get asked to reconcile for that device.
Would the adapter then delete it?
So this is now getting
storage
into cache cleanup of every adapter, right? So there might be a true-up situation that says the adapter, you know, in whatever storage it has, resource manager or OMCI or otherwise, may be one thing, and then the core may have, you know, a subset of that, or well, hopefully just a subset of that, and then somehow cleaning.
Yeah, I'm not even talking persistent storage. I'm just talking with the adapter remove it from its memory.
In the case of reconcile, or in the case of, so in the case of reconcile, let's say the sequence is core has removed some device, the adapter in that time period was not running, the adapter starts back up again, the adapter is asked to reconcile 5 other devices, it will not be asked to reconcile the 6th, right? So it won't have the 6th even in memory because it won't even have been asked to try to look it up in persistent storage to fill its cache. Now, the persistent storage question is another one because it may have persisted something about that 6th device that needs to go away.
So is that saying that the core really shouldn't delete that device if it has a failure on a request to say delete it from the adapter? It should alarm that condition.
Yeah, that's really my question. Should the core wait for a positive response from the adapter, or just doesn't care, just delete it?
It's okay.
Well, it seems like you have this invisible, you know, device that exists in the OLT adapter. If the OLT adapter doesn't respond, that it's deleted the device, right? And if the core just forgets about it, and there's no device to hang an alarm condition off, then it just, the whole system seems to be in a potentially irreconcilable situation, right?
So what are the situations where the core would cause a call delete or invoke a delete on the core and it would not get to the adapter? That's a COM break between those two, right? And when that if there's a COM break between those two,
or
when those COMs come up, they're going to resync. That's still a COM break in some sense, right? Whether if it's a timeout, I couldn't get the message there. If there's a timeout, then the adapter's going to have to resync anyway.
Right, but what's the response to the timeout from the core? Is it, I'm just going to ignore it, or I'm just going to generate an event and then ignore it? I mean, it still ends up with the adapter in a, you know, like a unstable situation.
Right, but the adapter is going to come back up when comms are reestablished, right? When no more timeouts happen, there's going to be a resync.
Right, but it sounds like the resync is based on what the core knows, rather than the OLT adapter saying, I've got this device, let's sync this device.
It's all about the core.
Right.
It's all about the core. The core,
But so
core's the master data.
Right. So if the core does not come back with a sync data on a device that the OLT has, but the core does not, the adapter then should delete that.
I think the adapter takes care of itself on reconciliation. I think the core says delete device. That message may or may not have gotten to the adapter, but the core says, I've done my part. When the adapter comes back up, as part of adapter reconciliation, that's the job of reconciliation, to true things up before proceeding.
Well, it seems like a reconciliation should be scheduled if something like a failure happens, right? Like I'm doing an operation, then it fails. Now I need to schedule the adapter to reconcile.
So what I'm hearing is on a delete operation, the core will just delete anything that it has on that device, forward that request to the adapter, and the core is done. It shouldn't even care about the response. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, if the response
I think the core will send an alert. I think the core will event, right? The core will send a message, and if it times out or if it gets an error response, it will alert on that, right? There'll be a log message. There'll be an event. But I don't think the core then says, oh, the delete failed, therefore it's still in my memory. I think it basically says, look, here's the alarm. It's out of my memory. Basically, at this point, it means there's got to be a resync scheduled, to Sean's point, so that I synchronize back to the adapter when communication is restored.
And I think that happens either if the adapter crashes or if communication between the adapter or the core is broken. I think that's step one, which is, are you a new adapter? If not, then we are reconciling. And that is on establishment of that Kafka connection.
Yeah, that's what happened today. Yeah.
So I think this just falls, in both cases, comms or adapter crash, it falls on the adapter to do the right thing when it's told to reconcile. And the core just cleans up after itself. I think in this case, delete, it really comes down to, given you can't account for your adjacencies, both physical device or adapter, the best you can really do is clean up after yourself.
So pretty much what we're saying, a delete is a hard delete. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah, and if there's an error, then it gets cleaned up later by a reconcile or a synchronization.
Cool.
And I would say that ONU delete, I wouldn't say it's exactly rare. I would say it's a use case for ONU swap at a subscriber's house. They do a truck roll, their ONU has got struck by lightning, they get out there, they unplug the old one, plug the new one in. It gets discovered in its own path, in its own way. And there's this ONU that's in VOLTHA that is, again, struck by lightning that you will not ever be able to disable. And at that point, you just want to delete it. And they'll typically call that in after they've already done all their plugging in and wiring. Whereas OLT delete is, that's a much rarer situation. I would think that's more of we're migrating PON ports and ONUs from one OLT to another, and you finally have finished. Or maybe the box literally got struck by lightning and you now have to move them all at once. But again, the physical failure or permanent failure of the OLT is that scenario. And again, that's rarer still.
I saw you drawing arrows there, so Ralph. Today for OLT creation, like when something is pre-provisioned, we can delete the OLT right away.
That's right. I had missed that one, but this you can already do. But once it's in enabled state, right, we had to disable it to delete it.
Correct.
So maybe the additional ones we need are ones that I haven't drawn yet. So no, I'm not hearing any opposition to these, right?
And I think safeguards are now the job of northbound API, which, I mean, really most of this in a large scale setup would be driven by northbound API anyway.
So Amit, you still have any questions? You're okay with this?
Yeah, I think I'm good with this. Yeah, for the questions.
And that's applicable no matter what's happening on that device, right? Whether we're upgrading an image, downloading an image, sending flows, whatever we're doing on that device, it deletes, just erase everything.
Yeah, I think so. Because again, the scenario of deleting may end up being because whatever you were trying before is in a really bad state, and you know what? Let's just start over. As long as the delete succeeds at that, you have a chance of starting over without having to restart the whole software stack.
So I'll add some more stuff about the NNI port things or on port disabling things. Actually, this one already mentions that if you disable an OLT today, it removes all the PON ports. In fact, that has been confirmed. VOLTA 2.x does not disable the ONUs if you disable the OLT. So when you re-enable it, it just brings back the PON ports. But I will add more stuff about the NNI ports as well.
Okay, thank you, Saurav. Okay, any other comments on this, or Saurav, do you want me to, should I take presentation rights back?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And let me find, I believe I'm sharing the right window. Okay, so the next topic, Ken, was the one you suggested we add to the agenda, and that's related to the recent thread on updating the port admin state from the northbound.
Yes, that's correct.
It's showing on my screen.
Yeah, currently in the core, we kind of map the operational state of the port to an administrator of the port, in the sense of if the operational state is set to active, we send the admin state to enable. If it's not active, then it's disabled. And so there is a JIRA around, and there's a commit that is in review where we're saying that we'll leave it to the operator to decide the admin state of the ports. However, the very first time that a port is being created, we set the core will automatically set the admin state of that port to enabled. And then after that, it will be up to the adapter to change the operational state up and down. If the operator come back later on and change that admin state of that port to be down, then that's the only time that the core will act on that. So it's really about how we want to proceed with port status in the core.
So I recall a conversation about this, and I think it came down to that, is it a question of by default, do we always have all ports admin up, or by default, do we always have ports admin down? And I think we left it as by default, always have them admin up, mostly because that's been the precedent that's been set. Though maybe in some time in the future, if there's a requirement, you could have some device level flag on pre-provision that may say by default admin all ports down. But right now, I think by default, continuing with the existing behavior of if it's a new port, then it's admin up by default.
Yeah, there should probably be some kind of port profile as well. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other attributes that you may want to have some default settings for as well.
So currently when a port gets created, like the core received a request to create a port, and it comes together with an operational status. Do we set the admin state on creation to up irrespective of the operational status?
I think so.
I think so. That's what it I agree.
Yeah, they're completely separate, I guess. From an admin state, it's the upper state. If the port's disabled, then the upper state is going to be down, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
I don't think that it has anything to do with the operational state, right? Unless the admin state, by default it's enabled, and unless it's explicitly disabled by something northbound, it stays enabled, regardless of the operational state. Right. So when we first create it, it's, whether it's the ONU shows up as enabled or disabled or unreachable or whatever, right? The admin state is still up, unless it's explicitly brought down.
Yeah, so there is a latest update on this mail. So Julie, can you just refresh this one? I had.
Sure.
So I had, another question on this. So what does ONO's port status reflect? Is it VOLTHA's port admin state or upper state? Because the admin state could still be enabled, but upper state could be down, say when you lose connection with the ONU.
So state in ONO should always reflect the operational state.
Okay.
It does for the unis today.
Okay, so that makes sense. Thanks.
So what's the default map for the ONU ports, right? Remember, I think they're talking about the maybe 5 uni ports, but we're only interested in 1. The other ones are all
now,
become down. Okay.
When the port is created, so when the ports are created, all 5 or 2 or however many, they're created as admin up, but their upper status is now only set to up if there's actually link state on the port.
Okay, all right. That makes sense, yeah.
So, but if you went in and decided to admin down all 5 of them, let's say we have port control in place, the upper state will follow, obviously, and go down to all of them as well.
Okay.
So let me get it right. If an operator comes and disable all the ports, the admin state are down in ONOS, if we send the admin state down, automatically we are expecting the adapter to set the operation state to be disabled, correct? To be down as well?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, then that will be reflected in ONOS.
Yes.
Okay.
I do know that that's kind of a mixed bag today. I know the ONU adapter on admin down will go ahead and set upper down as well. But it could stop doing that explicitly and let either the workflow take care of that in the core.
I didn't understand the last point, Matt. The ONU adapter
right now,
gets an admin down,
so
and
when the adapter goes admin down, it sends a message to set the link state of all the unis down.
Yes.
But rather than waiting for the LAN loss alarms to come in for all of those to set the upper state down, it just goes ahead and assumes that because I set admin state down, I'm going to go ahead and tell the core that the upper state is down.
It doesn't wait for the result of the operation.
Right, exactly. It just says, I told it admin down, I'm just going to assume it went down. But that can change. It could actually key off that LAN loss alarm in both directions, both up and down. But again, it would kind of be odd to be like, I admin down the port, but its upper state is still up. And it's like, how?
Yeah, it can't really be any other state.
Because let's say if you unplug the ONU and you try to disable the port, then you won't get the LAN loss alarm. Or, yeah, exactly. That alarm is an explicit send. And if the ONU is gone, then you'll have admin down, but upper up, which makes no sense. But I guess the question that Ken had is if an adapter does that on its own or the core does that just as part of its workflow, I guess one way or the other. It would probably make more sense for the core to do it so it's consistent across all adapters.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would make most sense if the admin goes down, then the core set the operational status to be down. But if it goes up, then we'll wait for the adapter to set it to up.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's not allowed to go up if it's admin down, right?
Yeah, the last time we discussed this, the operational status was only set from the adapter. And if we change that now, we're going to get some inconsistent state. I don't think the core ever sets operational state. It was always a reflection of what's at the adapter.
Yeah, that's correct. There are some conditions where the core actually set the operational state. This is really on device creation. Like that's it. It said something like to pre-provision something that I can't remember well. In this specific condition, like if the core doesn't do anything, and I'm okay with the adapter to set the operational state, but if for some reason we lose connection with the adapter briefly or for a longer period of time, then we'll have those states in the core of admin state being down and operation state being up.
Yeah, so I mean, it can't be, you can't have a situation where I've admin something down and then the device is telling me it's up, right? And that becomes the real status, because that's not valid.
Maybe it should be unknown. Maybe saying down, up or down might not be the right way of describing it. If we say we do admin down, and for whatever reason we cannot find out the opera state at that point, then it is really unknown.
Yeah, I think it becomes unknown. I mean, we should be getting opera state updates periodically. If we're missing them, then yeah, it becomes unknown.
So even in the unknown case, it's still the adapter that is setting the state to unknown, right?
No, it's essentially, look, the last state I got, it almost becomes two things, right? I've got the last state I've received from the adapter and kind of the last time I've received it, right? And at a certain point, the core is going to say, look, the last state I got from the adapter is in operational state enabled, but I got that 20 minutes ago, so I don't believe it. You know, I'm kind of in this unknown state. Now, whether that overrides the last known state of the adapter or it's a secondary, you know, kind of a sidecar to that or whatever, I don't know. But I think we need to stick with kind of the rule that operational state is set by the adapter, and then core can somehow decorate that with its confidence in the value.
Yeah,
I
I tend to agree with David, because see, we can't assume that, okay, because we are going to lose connection or not able to communicate to the adapter, the core starts doing the changes on its own, right? Because again, it's if cases. In certain cases, we are saying, okay, let the core do the decision because it is possible that we lose communication. But in other cases, anyways, the core can't do it. So I think that would bring back a lot of complexity.
Okay, but the adapter is receiving the admin down, so it's going to override anything that the physical equipment sends, right? I mean, or are we saying it's not the adapter that controls the upper state, it's the physical equipment? Because at some point, the physical equipment may not be there, right? And it can't change state. So either the core does it or the adapter does it, right? I think the adapter is probably the right place for
that's
controlling
correct.
So, that, right?
So I think the thought was that the upper state is a variable which is owned by the adapter, and the adapter tries to reflect whatever is the state of the physical device using that variable.
Yeah.
So, for example, if the device is not there, then the upper state would be unreachable.
Way to rephrase what David is saying is, above all else, upper state indications from the device take precedent. Either an upper state up or an upper state down.
I think we have to be a little more precise on what we're saying though. When we say from the device, are we saying from the adapter?
I'm saying from the physical device. So in the case of OMCI land loss, and in case from the OLT of BAL indication that one of the ports is down, right? Because I mean that's probably the truest truth we have. Anything else is now a question of if we've lost communication to the device or communication to the adapter, what assumptions do we make?
Right, but at some boundary of the system, if I have admin down the device, I don't really care what its upper state is, right? I mean, from the management system, it's going to see it's down because I've admined it down.
Maybe both are set to admin down. At that point, if you set admin down, then both offer state and admin state is admin down, which is really just another way of saying I don't know and I don't care.
Well, again, if admin state's down, then you don't need to set operational state to anything. Admin state's down, fine. If that's all the app management system cares, operational state should reflect
actually
what the reality is from the device through the adapter. It's perfectly reasonable for the core to say, look, I have a low confidence level in this because I haven't really got an update or comms from this adapter in X period of time, but I don't think it's okay for the adapter to set the value. Sorry, okay for the core to set the value.
The operational state, right?
Yeah, the operational state is only set by the adapter. The core can say I have confidence or no confidence in the value, but it can never set it.
From an owner's perspective, it will still see that that device as the ports being up, right? Because based on the operational status during that time.
Right. But so let's say a port is going up and down, just transitioning up and down constantly, and I want to turn that off. If I admin down that port, do I still see the operational state transition?
Try that again. If you admin down the physical port on the device.
Yeah. So let's say I'm just getting just being bombarded by up or up or down, right? For a physical port, right? And I want to turn off that stream of events. Now, if my admin state is unrelated to the upper state, and I admin it down, what's the behavior of the system? Is it still going to flood the system with state transitions?
Well, I mean, if you admin down a port, that message should be sent to an adapter, right? If the adapter gets it, then the adapter should admin down the physical device, in which case the physical device should react, and you'll
right. But the physical device
is the operational state.
Right, but the physical device is not behaving rationally at this point. It's there's a bug or something, right? So it's just flooding the system with up, down, right? I want to turn that off. If I admin that port down, what's the behavior of the system? Will it stop the flood of events?
Yes, it should. It should, because
it does not.
Yeah, it should, because if a device is admin down, the adapter should not entertain any request from the device, except for special situations.
Today, let me rephrase that. If there's a operation state is being flip-flopped, the core will receive those status change and will send a port status change event up to owners for each of those changes. That's current behavior.
Right, but I'd like to be able to turn that off by adminning that down, right? So the upper state and the admin state can't be disconnected from a management perspective, right? In terms of the behavior of the system.
So yeah, to quiet a flapping link, the typical tool is admin it down, right? To keep the network from reconverging every few seconds. So yeah, we want to retain the admin down tool as a way to silence a flapping link.
So basically, when something's admin down, we don't event on it.
Right.
We don't event on it further up if things are misbehaving.
Well, no, if we admin down something, then no operational event should come through. So I think what they're saying or is being said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then I guess what does that mean?
Sorry,
I'm not sure how that works. Can we push that and solve that when it's an actual problem? Because I'm if all of a sudden I say admin down, and do I get the operational state down event or not?
If it's successful, yeah. And if it's not,
really, because
well,
what happens if I do admin?
You still have to report up to ONOS that the port is down. Right now, if the port is not down because something went wrong or it's misbehaving, what I'm hearing is that we should still say it's down and ignore everything coming from the actual physical device.
Yeah, to answer your question, David, today we don't have the ability to do admin down of the port. So if we have those ability in place, if we do an admin down, so there will be a request that goes to the adapter to set that port down, and then the adapter will come back and says, okay, the operational state is X. We need to send that message up because there's a change. But since we set this admin state as down, if we're saying that we can't send anything upward for admin down, means almost we're going to discount that message.
Right. Are we trying to solve a problem too early, I guess? Can we just say, look, admin, we go at operational state is set by the adapter. Admin down sets the administrative down state and core and sends a message to the adapter and leave it at that. I mean, for now. And yeah, that means we're processing all events coming back from the adapter. And if there's something bad behaving at the adapter, we get some flap. We don't even know if that's we haven't seen that yet. We may not see it. We may. Can we
maybe
not solve that right now?
Leaving the oper state setting to the adapter, whether the oper state is set wholesale by the adapter on admin down or based on actual link state. Right now, it's just really about implementation. But
yeah, and
I guess the realm of the adapter is, I guess, what you're saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't address this, to be honest. I'd say, look, send the message down, reflect the operational state up, and leave it at that.
But what it's saying is we're not going to send operational event. I mean, the state of the operational state, if it's flapping, if I look at that, if I do a read of the state, I would still see it's, whatever state it is. It just wouldn't be able to generate events based on transition if it was admin down.
So
they'll end up in Kafka or something. You might still see, side effect events now, just in Kafka itself, but it wouldn't trigger state changes in the core and ONOS.
Right.
And just a time check, we are at the top of the hour, so we will need to wrap up discussion fairly soon.
Yeah, the last part of the discussion I didn't quite follow, because it's if this operation state is flapping, there will be an event coming into the core, and the core will act on that and send an event upward to ONOS.
Right. I guess I was saying that we probably don't want that. I mean, we want to control that via the admin state.
Yeah, that's what gets tricky, because
yeah.
It's a chicken and egg thing.
Having the adapter be responsible for that, because it's in the best place to know what the device is doing, whether it's truly flapping or not.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
To be this point, at this point, I would not worry. Again, if I kick the can down the road, I'd say, look, all events are published up. Administration state, admin state doesn't matter in terms of that. if flapping becomes an issue, let's address it, but I'm not sure we have to pre-address it, right? If the adapter today doesn't want to deal with flapping filtering, don't let it, right? Let's get it implemented just so that it passes everything up day one, because we're not there. And then we can figure out what we want to do day two.
I'm fine with that conclusion.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm good.
Guess I'm outvoted on that one.
I mean, if this was our biggest problem, I'd be concerned about it. It's just, when I look at VOLTHA, I'm like, I don't see this as the biggest issue.
Yeah, I mean, I really would want to get the state transition stuff done as quickly as possible with what we have all agreed on, and solve other problems like OLT reboots and things like that. And we can come back.
Container restarts.
Yeah.
Well, scalability might be a good one as well.
Yeah, all of that is being tackled. So
Yeah.
let's not introduce a new thing right now. We can. I'm perfectly fine if you want to create a Jira item for the case that you were talking about, Sean. But
okay.
now I think we are fine with with our current setup.
Yeah, I'll create something around common behavior for disabling something.
Okay, thanks, Sean. All right, we're a little bit over time. Thanks, everyone, for staying on so we can wrap up the discussion. Any last comments before we drop the bridge today? All right,
Thank you,
I
Julie.
think we'll call it a. Yep, we'll go ahead and wrap up the meeting. Thanks, everyone. I will stop the recording.
Thanks, everyone.
And talk to you next week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.